right. Hey, everybody. Today I'm going to talk about the custom features of NgRx SignalStore. But before that, NgRx has been busy with state management for a while. Who's using NgRx? Yeah, a lot of you, yeah. So we had state management solutions for a while. First, we had Global Store, a Redux-based solution, which probably most of you are using today. Then we had a component store for local state management. But then signals come around, right? So what do we do? Well, let me tell you what we do. But first, let me introduce myself. I'm Okrushko. I'm a front-end lead at Snowflake, NgRx team member, Google developer expert in Angular, and I also organize Angular Toronto. So if you're ever in that area, give me a shout. All right, so signals. Signals are there, and we already have a few state management solutions. And just to keep you at ease, we also ported new APIs for those solutions, such as select signals. So if you want to use signals in your application, but you have global store or component store, no problem. You can always use signals with new select signal APIs. But then we have a third state management solution now. Again, we're getting really good at state management libraries. SignalStore. Why do we need a third state management library? Well, there are a lot of advancements in Angular. In particularly, Angular introduced inject function that could be used within the functions as well, right? So it's used within Angular's execution context. And that enabled us to move away from the class-based injections. And all of the solutions that we had before were class-based. And with the class-based, there are some limitations. Which are limitations? First of all, typing. If you want to add dynamically properties to the class, even if you can shove them in, you cannot really reflect it in a types class. So that's one. Secondly, if you have methods within the class and you're not using them, they're not being taken out, right? They're staying with the class. So with the functional approach, we can actually only keep what you use and remove what you don't need. And finally, the most exciting one for me personally, and this is probably the reason why we actually have a third management solution, is extensibility. Again, with classes, multiple inheritance is not quite supported, and with functions, you could do magic. And let me show you the magic. So extensibility of SignalStore is the key and the magic behind a lot of things that we'll see today. And that's actually why there's so much excitement in the community right now around SignalStore, by the way. So let's take a very simple example and understand what SignalStore is. Imagine we have to-do application, some interface with ID text, completed or not. And to-do state, that will be basically an array of those to-dos. So how would we create SignalStore? Well, first of all, we have some state, right? And that state is this to-dos. And we initialize it with the empty to-do array. So with state is a special function that comes from the NgRx signal package that allows us to create that initial state with state. Next, we can extend on this. We want to have derived state. We want to have state that is based on that original state. For example, completed to-dos. Completed to-dos are computed from to-dos, where you filter them by the ones that are actually completed. So this is, again, advancements in Angular like signals and computed allows you to greatly achieve this functionality. Prior to that, in the previous state management solutions, we were also reactive. We had selectors for this, right? Now computed can basically replace that. And finally, within the store, not finally, but also within the store, we want to operate on that state. We want to encapsulate the logic that operates on the state. For example, if we want to add to-dos, right, we can add the method. So with method allows us to, add things to this store. For example, how to add to-do. And we will basically patch the state and immutably extend the array with a new to-do. Now, this is not all. there's also one more thing that we can do out of the box, and that's the management lifecycle hooks of the SignalStore. For example, we can add with hooks for the initialization and for destruction with the onInit and onDestroy. So this completes the package. This is all basic functions that SignalStore can provide. Now let's see how can we use it in the actual application. Well, first of all, we'll use the providers and we'll provide that store, right? So we can just provide it there. Then that will actually, what it will do, it will tie the life cycle of that store to that component. So when component is created, this store would be initialized. When component is destroyed, this store would be destroyed as well with all of its data. All right? So then we'll inject this store in there, and we can use it almost as a view model, right? For example, we have this add to do, we just do store to do, add to do, right? Then we can access the state of it, all of those to-dos, through the signal. That's what the SignalStore creates for you. It turns that array into the signal. And finally, it can also do completed to-dos with from the computed properties. That's your derived state. So these things like with state, with computed, with methods, and with hooks are basic building blocks of your state management. You need them pretty much all the time. However, what's so interesting about them is that they all return the same type. They're all SignalStore features. And they're done like that for a reason. Our SignalStore doesn't really care if you provide it with state or with method or with, it just takes them all as those features. You see it all and then combines them, does some magic, and creates the injectable class for you. And this is really, really powerful. It's really, if you look at the sources, this is like 50 lines of code. But it really doesn't care which SignalStore features you provide to it. Again, the ones that we had there are provided already by NgRx signals, and they are basic building blocks. Here they are. So, again, with state, with computed, with methods, and altogether, we'll take the SignalStore features array and do something with this and create this. However, again, I kept saying that the beauty of SignalStore, it's extensibility. And we can extend it with another special function. And this function is called SignalStore feature. This function by itself can also take all those SignalStore features array, right, multiple building blocks, and aggregate them, reduce them to a specific one SignalStore feature. So it can do all of that for you, aggregate them, and create the SignalStore feature. And this is really, really powerful, and we'll see an example soon. So I'll take that array and produce a SignalStore feature. So let's take at the example. That was all theory. Let's take at the example. So loading state. You know, with any applications, you have APIs. Who doesn't have APIs? No, everybody has them. Good. So with APIs, that means there's some kind of state of that API, right? So when you do the request, we can encapsulate it in request status. It could be idle, it could be pending, it could be fulfilled, right? It already returned the data, or it can result in an error. So we'll create a type that combines it all together, and we'll create a state that will reflect that request status API, right? So with that, we'll wrap it with request status. We'll create a function with request status, which will return the SignalStore feature. Now, what that allows us to do is now we can start packaging that feature together. A lot of times, feature needs some kind of state. For example, in this case, it will be the request status. Idle is initial state. And then we also need some ways to work with this state or other useful things like methods or computed. In this case, we'll have additional computed. For example, is pending. It means that request status is in pending mode, is fulfilled, request status is fulfilled, or we can extract the error. So now any consumer can read this computed state. So with request status now is what we call a custom feature, right? This SignalStore feature allowed us to package it together in one single unit. Remember what the store feature does? Packages it together in one single unit. Now, let's get to the store. We have a SignalStore. We create our state with a to-do state. And then we just put that custom feature plugin right there. Notice it's not provided by anybody. You created it. You created it. Here you go. It's back. Oop. Yeah, here you go. You created it. And now all of a sudden, your store has additional properties out of nowhere. It has request status and other computed properties like pending, fulfilled, and error. And you can use them further in the store or in the consumer where you consume the store in your component. So, for example, we'll add a few methods like, we'll inject this to do service, we'll load the features, we'll patch the store with the set pending when it's loading, and then we can, once it's fulfilled, we can patch the state with those to-dos that we got from the service and set the fulfilled state as well. All right, so this is, you can see, very, very powerful. And there are many examples of this custom features now. One of the custom feature is actually the feature that's also provided from NgRx Signals itself, and that's entities. Anybody work with entities, NgRx entities? Yeah, here you go. Good, good. If you work with the collections, think of arrays, it's much better to work with entities because they provide you very nice APIs to update single ones, pull single ones, update all of them, replace them, remove them. So they provide you all the APIs to interact with your collections. So if you're not using entities, you're missing out. So definitely use them. So anyhow, with entities, it's yet another custom feature, but it's provided by NgRx Signals itself. And you can see here, if you want to add to-do, we can just patch the state and add entity. Remove to-do, patch state with remove entity. And if we want to just complete all to-dos, well, we'll patch state and update all entities with completed true, for example. So this just shows you the versatility now, right? You really compose your SignalStore as you want. And typically in the application, you'll have multiple signal stores. And you can reuse those pieces of logic that you encapsulated together in different signal stores out of the box, right? So there are other ideas already floating around. What can you do with this? Well, you can create with router state and package all your router data there as well. Just with a single, function, all of a sudden, all of your router data is available within your SignalStore. Or there are implementations for a local storage sync. For example, you want to synchronize your data and store it in your local storage or session storage that if customer refreshes the app page, you can just pull it out immediately, right, while you do your fetching of the APIs from the backend. With Form, even that is floated around. Possibilities are really, truly endless. And there are already a number of community plugins available because you can really just publish them. Those are really just functions. You can publish them. For example, Manfred, Mike, and Rainer here, they all created the Angular Architects NgRx Toolkit, which with a collection of this custom feature plugins for NgRx Signals. They were teasing it a little bit today with data service, right? You saw in the Manfred's presentation. They have more. They can also connect things to Redux, DevTools as well. They have a number of great connections there. So that's one of the plugins. The other one that's also popped out on my radar is by Gabriel Guerrero and NgRx Straight Signals. And this one allows you to create a solution for adding pagination, sorting, filtering, all for the client-side data, right? So if you have those tables, you can do all that easily with this library. So, and there'll be more. I'm sure there will be a lot more things like that. And we're actually discussing with the NgRx team right now that we'll create in the NgRx.io site a separate page for all the plugins that are available through community, right? So anybody can share their own solutions that they found useful, and maybe others can use them as well, right? So all those plugins. So just to summarize this, all NgRx management solutions are signal ready. So if you're using one already, that's no problem, and you want to be with signals, no problem, you can use that. The latest SignalStore is highly extensible, and I feel like it's really superpower that provided by all the latest Angular innovations plus the functional approach. There are already a number of community-created solutions, and that list is growing. You can see examples on Twitter, LinkedIn, every so often popping up with the new ones. With that, I wanted to thank my fellow NgRx team members, Brandon Roberts and Tim DeShriver for maintaining this. And of course, Marko Stanimirovic, who actually was the lead author of NgRx Signals and also organizer of this beautiful conference. Thank you, Marko. With that, NgRx is everywhere. You can find us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Discord. We have NgRx Discord. Our docs is at NgRx.io. We do have workshops also for NgRx. One of them was yesterday, and sorry for everybody else who couldn't get in because it was sold out like months ahead. We do provide workshops every so often online as well, so you might want to sign up there. And we're at the GitHub as well and the NgRx platform. With that, I'm Alex Okrushko. You can find me on LinkedIn and Twitter as well, X now. And thank you so much for listening.